something wild caught. Okay, so here you see we have a farm-raised steelhead trout. You want to stay away from the farm-raised out there at all, but we really want to know where it came from. We don't really know much about this, other than it came from Chile, and I'm probably not going to buy that. From the USA, so at least we know this came from our sea, and it's going to be a little fresher and a little healthier than if
It's shrink-wrapped, neatly labeled, and perfectly colored. Whether it's beef, chicken, or pork, the meat sitting in your supermarket's cold section looks clean, safe, and fresh. It whispers words like grass-fed, organic, locally sourced, or all-natural. You trust it because it's there, inside a well-lit store with polished floors and an air of professionalism. But behind that polished glass and tidy packaging is a world you're not meant to see. Because the truth about supermarket meat isn't on the label. It's hidden, deep in supply chains, factory farms, and strategic wording designed to keep you comfortably uninformed. What your favorite supermarket doesn't tell you is how long that meat has actually been dead. In many cases, the steak you just picked up has been sitting in a warehouse or chilling in cold storage for weeks, sometimes even months. This isn't illegal, and it's not even necessarily dangerous. Supermarkets use vacuum sealing and modified atmosphere packaging, where oxygen is replaced with gases like carbon dioxide or nitrogen, to extend shelf life and keep meat looking fresh. The color remains pink, the texture stays firm, but the meat itself is far from new. And the expiry date? It's not the kill date, it's the final point at which the supermarket agrees to sell it. The journey of that meat, from slaughterhouse to packaging facility to distribution center to local store, can be long and circuitous. A pork loin slaughtered in Iowa might end up in a store in Florida after sitting weeks in a refrigerated truck, then in a warehouse, then finally on a shelf. During this entire journey, preservatives, temperature control, and chemical washes ensure it never quite smells off. But that doesn't mean it's fresh. Even worse, many supermarkets engage in case-ready meat practices, where cuts are pre-packaged at off-site facilities before ever reaching your store. You think the meat is cut and wrapped by a local butcher. It's not. It's prepared in bulk, often at massive meat-packing plants, then sealed in branded plastic with labels applied at a central facility. By the time it hits your store's refrigerated shelf, it's gone through more hands and machines than you'd like to know. And that red juicy color you see? It's not a sign of freshness. It's a chemical illusion. Beef naturally turns brown when exposed to oxygen, a process called oxidation. It's harmless, but consumers find it unappealing. So meat producers treat beef with carbon monoxide or other gas mixes that keep it bright red for weeks. You could be looking at beef that's 30 days old and never know it. The color doesn't fade. The smell is masked. The meat looks as good as new, even when it's far from it. But shelf life is only part of the story. The bigger concern lies in where the meat comes from, and how those animals lived before they became food. Supermarkets like to talk about traceability and responsible sourcing, but very few consumers understand what those terms really mean. Product of USA doesn't necessarily mean the animal was raised here. It might have been born in Mexico, raised in Brazil, and only processed or packaged in the US. According to USDA loopholes, that's still legal. Labels like grass-fed and free-range are often manipulated. A cow that spent a few weeks grazing on grass before being switched to grain can still be labeled grass-fed. Chickens crowded into a warehouse with a small door leading to a tiny outdoor run can be called free-range. These labels are designed to comfort you, not to inform you. The reality of most industrial meat production is brutal, fast-paced, and built entirely around efficiency, not ethics. Factory farms, where the majority of supermarket meat originates, operate on a model of mass production. Animals are raised in crowded, often inhumane conditions to maximize output. Chickens are bred to grow unnaturally fast, often unable to stand under their own weight. Pigs are kept in gestation crates so small they can't turn around. Cattle are packed into feedlots where they stand in their own waste, fed corn to fatten up quickly before slaughter. Antibiotics are used not just to prevent disease, but to help animals survive the very conditions that would otherwise kill them. And those antibiotics? They don't just vanish. Traces can remain in the meat, contributing to the global issue of antibiotic resistance. Over 70% of all antibiotics used in the US are given to livestock, not humans. That statistic alone should raise alarms, but it rarely makes it onto your supermarket's glossy promotional flyers. Another dirty secret? Supermarkets regularly repackage meat that's near expiration. If a pack of chicken thighs is close to its sell-by date, it may be ground up and sold as chicken mince. If steak looks a little brown, it may be freshened up with a new label or placed under special lighting to make it appear rosier. Sometimes meat is soaked in solutions of water, salt, and chemicals to plump it up and improve texture, especially with poultry. You're buying water weight and preservatives, not pure protein. Ground meat is even riskier. When you buy a pound of ground beef, you're not buying meat from one cow. You're likely buying a mix from dozens, even hundreds of animals blended together. That means if one part is contaminated, the entire batch is at risk. And though E. coli or salmonella outbreaks make headlines occasionally, most contaminated meat never gets flagged. It gets sold, cooked, and eaten, sometimes with consequences. And yet, supermarkets continue to build their brands on words like quality, trusted, and local. The branding may feature happy farmers, green pastures, and smiling butchers, but those images are marketing fiction. The average supermarket gets its meat from global supply chains, not small family farms. Those butchers behind the meat counter? Many are just retail workers slicing pre-portioned cuts or weighing factory-packed ground meat. Even organic meat isn't immune to manipulation. While the USDA organic label does require animals to have access to the outdoors and prohibits routine antibiotic use, enforcement is inconsistent. Massive organic operations have been caught violating standards without consequence. And again, the label tells you little about transport, handling, or the true life quality of the animal. So what can you do? The answer isn't panic, it's awareness. First, understand that just because meat is sold in a supermarket doesn't mean it's fresh, ethical, or high quality. The supply chain is built for volume, not virtue. If you want truly fresh meat, look for local butchers who source from small farms, or even better, buy direct from a farm when possible. Ask questions about where the meat comes from, how it was raised, and how it was handled. Read labels carefully, look beyond the feel-good words and check for specifics. 100% grass-fed and finished is better than grass-fed. No antibiotics ever is clearer than raised without hormones, and if you don't see a pack date, ask. Better yet, buy whole cuts instead of ground, and freeze meat yourself instead of relying on pre-frozen options that have been thawed and repackaged. Consider reducing your meat consumption, not because meat is inherently bad, but because the industrial model is deeply flawed. If enough people shift demand toward transparency, smaller producers, and ethical treatment, the system may slowly change. But it won't happen through supermarkets alone. They follow profit, not principle. At the end of the day, your favorite supermarket isn't your friend, it's a machine. A highly efficient, highly profitable machine designed to move product. It doesn't care how that chicken was raised, how long that beef sat in storage, or whether that pork chop was soaked in brine. It cares that you buy it and come back next week to buy more. The illusion of cleanliness, the perfectly pink meat, the tidy labels, it all exists to keep you from asking questions. But now you know better. And once you know, you can choose better. You can pull back the plastic wrap and see the system for what it really is. A business built on silence, scale, and appearances. It's time we stop pretending that the supermarket meat section is a place of trust. It's not. It's a showroom. The real story is behind the scenes, and it's one most brands hope you'll never uncover. But now you have. and you'll never look at that shiny red steak the same way again.